reality could strike, and it could mean that Ernest Jones is gone and the Rams have traded him away. But honestly, there's a chance that the Rams could actually make out pretty well if they do trade him away. And so I'm going to get to the bottom of this and basically give you some teams and some players to keep an eye on in potential trade packages. Before we dive into that, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including TikTok, Instagram, wherever. And also, just want to let you guys know at any point during this video, if you ever want to transition over to the audio, you can go and do that wherever you get your podcast. Jake Ellenbogen Live, you search it and it will come up, and you'll find this video in audio podcast platform. So thank you guys. Appreciate that. But let's dive into it because I really want to talk about this. Ernest Jones, I've made it very clear. I don't want him to be traded. I've made that very clear. I think it'd be a mistake to trade a player of this caliber, even if he is not going to be back on a long-term deal after the season. I think that they should let him play it out. And while I really like guys on the roster like Jake Hummel and Omar Spates, and I like everybody on this roster at linebacker, the reality is I feel like if they trade Ernest Jones, they need to get somebody in return. So may not even necessarily be somebody that would start over some of these guys, but somebody with upside, maybe somebody that would start. So let's talk about it. I've been told the Falcons are interested in Ernest Jones, and I would call them the favorite at this point in the game. And, the reality is they have 3 linebackers I would be interested in, acquiring should the Rams give up Ernest Jones. And I want to make this clear. I understand we don't see player-to-player deals like the NBA or like, baseball, but we have to understand something here. Ernest Jones is a very good player. We're talking about a top 10 inside linebacker. Make no mistake about it. The Rams better not take anything, less than a player and at least a 5th-round pick with that player. If it's no player, I'd want at least a 2nd-round pick in return. Otherwise, there's no point of trading him. And I wouldn't trade him for a draft pick because I think this team can win the Super Bowl, and I think you're just making your team weaker by trading him. So with that said, let's talk about it. The Falcons, they have 3 linebackers in Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, and Kaden Ellis that I think would make sense for the Rams. We'll start off with Troy Anderson. I think a package for Troy Anderson, a 5th-round pick, makes a lot of sense. Anderson from Montana State is a 2nd-round pick in his own right. Was actually the 2nd most athletic linebacker according to RAS. His relative athletic score is the 2nd highest since 1987. We're talking 4.4 speed, everything you'd ever want in a linebacker athletically, he has. Now, he hasn't quite been the guy that they were hoping for, and it is a new regime. So I think he is very, very much in play to be traded here, especially for a guy like Ernest Jones. And let's be honest, there's no reason why the Rams can't get somebody from Atlanta if they're trading for Ernest Jones, because if they're trading for Ernest Jones, then he's going to start, and likely he's going to start next to Kaden Ellis, who is on this list. But if you're looking to replace Ellis and start Ernest Jones, then, Ellis would, of course, have to come through in the deal. The point is, I don't think the Rams can afford, again, to trade away Ernest Jones to a team like the Falcons that has 3 capable guys that could be traded away for none of them. So let's talk about that. Troy Anderson and a 5th-round pick, I think it helps the Rams. It adds a guy who has serious athletic upside, but also played quarterback. He played running back and was moved over to linebacker. So he hasn't played linebacker his whole career. And this is somebody that is still growing at the position, still learning the game. I think he's somebody that can end up being really good. I think he's got legitimately elite upside with that athleticism if he's coached up and developed properly. So if he sticks with the Falcons, I wouldn't be surprised down the road that we hear about him being a pretty decent player. If he goes to the Rams and has a chance to start, because I don't know if he's necessarily going to start in Atlanta, I think he's got a chance to be really, really good. So Troy Anderson, a 5th-round pick, I would prefer a 3rd, but I think realistically, if I had to make any sort of prediction, that is where I think the Rams would go. I think they'd go in the direction of adding Anderson, a tackler, athletic, sideline-to-sideline guy, has upside in coverage, and I think they'd work with him, and they'd get a 5th-round pick in return for Ernest Jones, okay? So that's what I think is, honestly, I'll make it the prediction. I think that's where they go. I think that's what happens, but let's move on. Nate Landman. Landman is an outstanding run defender as a linebacker, more of an old school thumper, but he's got good athleticism, sideline to sideline, can cut off lanes and what have you. So I do like him. I do think he fits to a degree, but I think I would prefer Anderson. If you got Landman, I think you could get a third-round pick because I think Anderson has more upside. But again, great run stopper, would help this team out. If you gave up Ernest Jones, you'd be getting something in return. And, of course, you'd have something for the future. Landman's one of those guys that, you know, the regular NFL fan probably doesn't even know. More of the diehard fans, I think, are well aware of who he is. But not necessarily a household name yet, kind of like a very underrated player. So I understand if you've never heard him before, you're probably souring at it, but trust me, he put on some really good tape with the Falcons, and he didn't play in preseason. Now, I didn't look too much into that. It could be he was banged up or whatever, but he did not play in preseason. It could mean that he's going to have a role with this team, or at least so to speak, until they maybe acquire Ernest Jones. And last but not least, on the Falcons is Kaden Ellis. And I think this would be a straight up swap. Ellis is a secret superstar. He signed for, I believe it's 2 to 3 more years. So I think he fits the short-term timeline the Rams have been really looking at, signing these guys to 3-year deals, not really being open to committing to them long-term in that sense. Kind of everything going around the Stafford timeline. I've loved Kaden Ellis for a while. He is a fun player, really a well-rounded linebacker, good athlete. Like I said, I think it's unlikely. I think they want to pair Ernest Jones with Kaden Ellis. I think they'd be open to trading Landman and Troy Anderson. Not both, but trading one or the other. I think it's going to be Anderson. Would not be against Landman, though. I think either way, the Rams would be... Obviously, you're not getting better getting rid of Ernest Jones, but I think you'd be feeling a little bit better. You know, if you could acquire a third-round pick in either of those guys, that's a hell of a lot better than acquiring a third-round pick in Hunter Long. I'm just making that clear. Moving on, speaking of which, the Rams traded, for Hunter Long and obviously traded Ramsey to the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a player who's going to start for them as long as he doesn't get traded, and that is David Long Jr. I think a David Long Jr. trade and a 5th-round pick, a quality starter, a veteran, I wouldn't be against that. I'm not saying that that's where I'd want to go. He has an expiring contract. It's more so you're swapping expiring contracts for another, but I know Jalen Ramsey would probably want his guy Ernest Jones with him, so I wouldn't rule it out. Definitely wouldn't rule it out. That would not be my favorite landing spot, but I could see the fit. With the Colts, another expiring deal, EJ Speed and a 4th-rounder. You'd be getting a quality starter, good athlete. Again, this isn't one of those ones where I'm dying to happen. I think I like the Falcons package opportunities more there. But, a guy on the Colts, depending on, if they'd want to put Zaire Franklin, pair him with Ernest Jones, I think that'd be a really good tandem. And I don't know necessarily if they're going to bring back EJ Speed after the season anyway. So I think they'd be willing to, move him in a 4th-round pick for Ernest Jones. Titans. Okay, this is interesting. Tennessee has a very interesting roster. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this team, and they have gone out and they've gotten some veterans. Of course, they got L'Jarius Sneed and so forth. So I actually could really see them doing this. If the Rams, and I don't know where they were on Cedric Gray, the 4th-round rookie linebacker, but if they really liked Cedric Gray, I could see the Rams being willing to trade for Cedric Gray and a 3rd-round pick for Ernest Jones. So an unproven, draft pick. This is a little rare of a trade. We don't really see this very often. The Titans drafted him and everything. So we don't really normally see players that were drafted get traded, but we also don't normally see players like Ernest Jones just become available 2 weeks before the NFL season either. Now, do we? The Patriots, right? So let's talk about it. New England has a linebacker, former linebacker in, Gerard Mayo as their head coach, former linebackers coach, defensive-minded. They got some guys definitely that I'm sure, they like. And obviously, Gerard Mayo coached this guy up. He's been around him. They feel really good. They gave him a 3-year deal, Jelani Tavai. But I think if you're getting Ernest Jones, he's better than Tavai, I think they definitely have to consider this. Tavai would be a hidden gem here. I think the Rams would be really nailing this one. I'd feel really good about this move. If you have to trade Ernest Jones, getting Tavai, who he is now, since, he's been with the Lions and everything. He's so much better with New England. He's really grown as a player. Tavai and a 5th-round pick, I think, would kind of get that done. We'll see if that ends up even happening, but that's another team to look out for. And last but not least, the Texans. Now, this might not be the best option, but I could see this also being realistic. DeMeco Ryans, former linebacker in his own right, and a guy that, essentially DeMeco Ryans is somebody that is a defensive-minded coach as well. I could see them wanting to add another veteran to this defensive room, bringing in Ernest Jones, trading away Henry To'oTo'o in a 3rd-round pick. I think To'oTo'o offers a lot, upside-wise. He's shown some things in coverage. He's definitely shown a lot in the run game. I'm not saying he's perfect or anything like that. He's a former 5th-round pick at Alabama, but I do like him. I liked him in the draft. So To'oTo'o and a 3rd-round pick, I think you get a good upside linebacker. If I'm being honest with you, those are the only teams I really see being in this thing. I don't think the Rams preferably would want to trade in the NFC, but I do think the Falcons make the most sense, and here's why. The Rams put a premium on doing right by players. We saw that with Jalen Ramsey. They wanted to do right by him. They wanted to trade him to where he wanted to go, and he said Miami. They traded him to Miami. They took a lot less than probably what they would have gotten somewhere else, and so I could see that. Now, I think this is going to be a very similar trade to Jalen Ramsey, but Jalen Ramsey, to be fair, is a better player than Ernest Jones. Ernest Jones is younger, though, so we'll see what ends up happening there. At the end of the day, if they get one of Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, or Kaden Ellis, and you tell me that there is no way to salvage this relationship, they have to trade Ernest Jones, whatever, then I'll feel fine. I will feel fine as long as they get a pick, a decent pick with those guys. I'll feel good. I think Landman offers something. I think Troy Anderson, while Landman's probably more productive so far, at least in the run game, I think Anderson's upside kind of outweighs that. So I think if I can have anybody out of those three, it's Kaden Ellis by far. Kaden Ellis helps you win a Super Bowl this year. But Kaden Ellis, I think, is very unlikely because, again, I think they're trying to pair Ernest Jones with Ellis. So I'm going to say Troy Anderson and a 3rd would be my ideal fair trade package. I think they settle at Troy Anderson and a 5th. That's right. I'm saying I think Troy Anderson out of Montana State is going to be an LA Ram. And I do think they're going to trade away Ernest Jones. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I just have this gut feeling that Raheem Morris is going to be very happy when this is all said and done. And the Rams are going to do their thing. They're going to send Ernest Jones to Atlanta to be with his former defensive coordinator. And I think that's how it's going to go. Raheem Morris was there, obviously when Ernest Jones was a rookie, and he was there, throughout his young career. And I could definitely see, Raheem Morris being a big reason why they decided to go with Atlanta. But I also could see them wanting to keep him out of the NFC. And Atlanta's doing some stuff with that defense where I could definitely see them being aggressive enough to make this move. So Raheem is probably definitely pounding the table to bring in Ernest Jones. We'll see what ends up happening. Like I said, I wouldn't expect them to get a 2nd or a 1st-round pick. I would like to see that, but I don't expect it. Roquan Smith, I believe, netted the Bears a 2nd and a 5th, if I'm not mistaken. So you're probably not getting a 1st, I would say. 2nd might be tough. We'll see what ends up happening, but I just got to say this in closing. Whatever the Rams do, I'm not going to say right now, I'm not going to change my mind. I still think this team's winning the Super Bowl, even if they trade Ernest Jones. And I know a lot of people say all the time, just believe in Sean McVay, trust Les Snead, and I've done that. I was very sour, as you guys know, when they traded away Jalen Ramsey, when they got rid of Bobby Wagner. I think I was very justified in feeling that way because it felt like this team won the Super Bowl, and then basically the 2022 season, everything went to hell in a handbasket, and the 3 players that played every single game, essentially Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey, and Bobby Wagner, were penalized for being the guys that were healthy, being the guys that put their butt on the line, despite the fact that they were playing for literally nothing throughout most of the season. to see them kind of overreact and get rid of all those guys kind of bothered me in my opinion, but I understood it, obviously down the road, I understood their plan. And as I've always said, because people will say, Jake, you were out on the Rams. I wasn't out on the Rams. I just didn't like what it looked to be like they didn't have much of a plan. Then you see their draft and you see, oh, this team's still trying to compete. They're just doing it a little bit different. They're trying to do a reset here, almost a reboot, if you will. And so I don't think Ernest Jones is in the same mold here. I don't think they're trying to get rid of Ernest Jones for any money issues. I think really what it comes down to is this. I think that part of them, and I don't know how much I necessarily believe that Omar Speights has pushed this, but I think part of them believes that, look, we find guys like Omar Speights all the time. We find guys like Jake Hummel and Christian Roseboom, and we got safeties that could also play in the box. And we feel really good about the fact that, look, if Ernest Jones doesn't want to be here, or whatever, we can't come to an agreement. We don't really want him to be around just kind of waiting for a contract. We don't want him to play without a contract. And, ultimately, I think this is very agent-based as well. So I'm not going to say it's all on the Rams. But I also think that there's really no way, and I'd be really pissed if this was not the case, there's no way the Rams are looking at this saying we need to trade Ernest Jones for a draft pick, okay? I don't think that they are that dense. I think they're trying to trade Ernest Jones away if they really feel like it's in their best interest and they can go and get a player. And maybe let's just say they really believe Omar Speights is that guy, okay? And he's going to be the starter, and they found what they believe is the biggest hidden gem ever, whatever. If they feel that way, then Ernest Jones needs to be traded for maybe a tackle, maybe a corner, try different ways to help this team, because I just don't see a way you trade a guy like that just for a pick. Even if you believe, and I saw Greg Rosenthal pointed out that he had a theory that essentially Omar Speights is going to start and they didn't want to bench Ernest Jones, and so they're basically being sloppy at the end of this and just trying to, find a trade or whatever. I don't necessarily think that. I think they're a way better organization than that. I think really what it comes down to is they might really like Speights. I don't think Speights is the reason why they're trying to trade Ernest Jones. But they also, believe it or not, might not even be looking at linebackers. They might be saying, look, we don't think of linebacker that highly. We got some guys that we really like. And we feel like we need, with Alaric Jackson being suspended and all the injuries on the offensive line, and Rob Havenstein and everything, maybe we feel like we need another tackle. Or the cornerbacks, having, as I've brought up many times, they're interested in Ahkello Witherspoon. Witherspoon would obviously like to play with them. The money isn't making sense for their either side. I mean, I think it makes more sense for Ahkello to be against the money than the Rams, because the Rams are trying to get him on the same deal as last year. But the point is that they're not really in agreement right now. There's nothing there. And so they have Trey White, who's coming off 2 major injuries the last 3 years or whatever. And they have Darius Williams, who's dealt with injuries in the past and dealing with injuries this offseason. And they have Kobe Durant, who's had soft tissue injuries, crawl up on him. And then potentially, we don't know yet, but currently, as of right now, it looks like they're going to keep those 2 UDFAs. So there's not a lot of certainty in the cornerback room. If they really identified that as, hey, the cornerbacks didn't work out the way we thought, let's go out and get another guy, I could see them trading Ernest Jones for that. But I think, to me, end of the day, I'm expecting a player and a pick in return for Jones. I'm not expecting Jones to be back. I hope he is. I'm rooting for him to finish out his career as a Ram, or at least most of it. But I've seen this movie before. This feels very reminiscent to Jalen Ramsey. We'll see what ends up happening. It started as some buzz. I heard, before all this happened, Ernest Jones may have suitors and what have you, but I couldn't see the Rams actually trading him away. And now we're starting to see this, very reminiscent to Jalen Ramsey, when I was being told straight up that the Rams were looking to trade him away. Not necessarily saying that they didn't want him anymore, but just kind of trying to have to make a tough decision based on where they were financially. So, and obviously financially, we're talking about the NFL mandated salary cap. Not that the Rams have any issue with, financial issues, because obviously that's not the case. They're not Dean Spanos and the Chargers. But with that said, though, end of the day, just know if Ernest Jones is back, things are good. If Ernest Jones is not back, I think he's getting traded to the Falcons. And I think it's going to be for Troy Anderson. And I think they're going to get a good player in return. I don't think it's necessarily, while it's very similar to Ramsey, I don't think they're just going to be fine with a Hunter Long. So we'll see what ends up happening. Very interesting dynamic here. I want to make this video because I think it's important to kind of get you guys familiar with some of these players that could be traded. Now, this is just my research. This is just me doing this. Other people may disagree. Other people may say David Long is not getting... We might have a Dolphins fan comment in here and say David Long is not getting traded. That's totally fine. This is my findings. This is what I kind of believe could happen. Taking expiring contract guys, taking guys with, good upside but are currently blocked. Guys like Troy Anderson that may or may not start. Those type of guys. And that's what I came up with. So if you like this, be sure to like and subscribe and comment. And also, at any point, if you ever want to become a member of this channel, support it further, and have access to exclusive perks on this channel, be sure to sign up for a membership today. You can do so by hitting the join button, and you could also check out the link in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys take care. Later, folks. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.